Sadly for me, I count you as a friend. That's how I've hit rock bottom.
Well, Scottish players and Scottish managers were deemed to be the best. They came to England to teach the English.
I just remember the first time that you and I met and you said to me, "Welcome to the madhouse." That was your opening gambit.
And was I wrong?
No, because I remember saying, if it's a madhouse, I'll fit straight in.
It's the best environment to work in.
Welcome to Simon Souness, a brand new show where we answer your questions and basically discuss anything we want. So nothing is off limits. Get into the comment section. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing, posing questions. But let's get on with the show. Mr. Souness, back amongst the fold. Nice to see you here. The format is that people ask us questions and then we start to expand upon it. So the first one is from someone called MUFC Dave, Man United fan. Who is our, but in this instance, your best friend in football?
Several. I can't say one in particular. I mean, I was very friendly with Michael Robinson, who sadly passed.
Yep.
Yeah, another Dave Johnson who passed. Tells you what vintage I'm from. Kenny Dalglish and I roomed together for the best part of 10 years with Scotland and Liverpool. Alan Hansen was a great buddy. Sammy Lee was a great buddy. But I've got lots of really good friends in football. But that doesn't mean I stay in touch with them on a weekly basis. But when our paths cross, we're still, we talk about the old times.
Well, the one that people will find intriguing, not one, because obviously I met Michael Robertson because he was over in Spain. And obviously from my background of being Palace, he would play for Brighton before he ends up at Liverpool, didn't he? But people will be fascinated about Kenny Dalglish. And in your first meeting, I met Kenny on a number of occasions. I knew his son Paul quite well, and who's a character. But what I found about Kenny on a couple of occasions I met him in Marbella was how self-effacing and unaware of the perception of, or the value that he has in other people's minds. But you and Kenny Dalglish together, that must have been an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, both similar personalities. I think I've had maybe 1,000.
Well, he's the president of his own fan club as well.
No, he's not like me.
No.
I mean, I've had 1,000 discussions with him and not won. Heated debates, not won. He always has to have the last word.
What, over you?
Yeah, can you believe that?
Blimey.
But he is, we roomed together. He would take a sleeping pill on a Friday night because he couldn't sleep, or whenever we were playing a football, he'd take a sleeping pill. And he would talk a language of, it was either Urdu or Cantonese or something, for 10 minutes before he crashed out.
Kenny would speak Urdu?
Absolute.
So it wasn't Urdu or Cantonese, it just was nonsense?
I'm not fluent in Urdu or Cantonese.
Right, okay.
Unfortunately.
Or English.
But it sounded a bit like that.
Right.
So he would, then I get some peace until I fell asleep. But we had a very simple arrangement in our room, because I'm from Edinburgh, he's from Glasgow, and his broad Scottish accent wasn't understood on the telephone. So anything to do with the telephone was my responsibility, and he had to get out of bed and answer the door if room service came, or anyone came to the door. It worked really, really well.
And as far as friends for me in football, I suppose...
Why about just friend? You got any friend?
No. Sadly for me, I count you as a friend. That's how I've hit rock bottom. That's how low I've got.
Yeah. No.
You're
a good choice then.
Fond and admire certain people. Something like Theo Pafitis at Millwall was very good to me.
What makes a good friend to you?
Someone that tells you the truth. Someone that doesn't. Someone that does what they say they're going to do and they do it. I think friendship's about loyalty, Graeme. I think it's about standing together in certain situations and supporting one another. I think it's also about being honest, don't you?
100%. Did you find the football world an untrustworthy place?
Yeah, disappointed, especially as an owner, especially as a young owner. The reason why I bring Pafitis into the equation is because when I walked in the door, there was a lot of, because I was 31 and a lot of people had a certain vantage point about what you were and what you weren't, and perhaps I didn't help that with my own attitude towards life. But Theo gave me advice, and when it came crashing down for me, when you're winning, as you will have seen in your life, everyone's your friend. And when you're losing, you get to find out who's on your side and who's not. And for me, when I go and wipe out 100 million quid, one of the few people that stood up for me.
When 100 million was worth 100 million.
Yeah, at least now a small
amount of money today.
Small amount of money by comparison. If you, when you look at people that you've admired, I don't know about you, Graeme, but I'm not a big admirer of people. I have a sort of slightly pragmatic attitude towards life. I'm not very impressed by many people. But one of the questions, or one of the scenarios that is interesting, is about who people do admire and who they would have liked to have met that they've admired but didn't. Who falls into that camp for you?
I think that's how we get on. I'm the same. I was forever asked, "Oh, who did you model yourself on as a player?" So no one. Oh, there must be someone. No, there isn't. I go out and do my best, and whatever comes out of me is me. There's people you admire because of what they do for a living and how good they are at it. And then you sort of have a sort of brush with them somewhere at a dinner or in a restaurant or somewhere, so you don't really get to know what they're about. But I can't say I've ever got close to anyone super famous that I felt let down by, because I've never got that close to them.
No, I mean, I've never sat. I mean, in business terms, people used to, what was your role model? Who were your heroes? Who did you want to be like? And I've never sat there thinking I wanted to be like anybody. I just wanted to be the best version of myself. Yeah. Yeah. Who?
I think that's maybe why we get on, because I think we're very similar in that respect. That listen, you are what you are.
Yeah.
For good or bad. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I think I know a wee bit about football. You're the same. You're not everyone's cup of tea, but
but I think I think
your stuff.
We have also, I think most of the time, not all the time, when we have a view, we can stand it up. Too many people in society and life get to say things, and then when you get them to qualify it, it's a load of old nonsense. There's no substance behind it. They've said it because they've heard someone else say it, or they've said it because they think it's a popular thing to say, or they've said it because it puts them in a camp where everybody can find it unchallenging what they say. Where I think with you and I, and when the reasons why when I spoke to you in 2006 and I wanted you to come to Palace was because I knew that there was substance there, whether people agree with your views on things or not.
Given that you're a proper media man now,
No, I'm not.
Given that you're a proper media man now,
bereft of principles, having no standards, and having no knowledge.
No, but in terms of for me, I've jumped a fence. Did it 17, 18 years ago when I got sacked at Newcastle. You jump the fence, you're now sort of pointing the finger at people. Does it bother you? Do you get much criticism?
No, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me unless I don't think I say stupid things for stupid reasons. I either, again, going to the point that you and I were talking about the ability to stand something up, and I think people that say things that can't stand it up are then open to criticism. So I get criticism from people that don't like what I have to say because it doesn't concur with their worldview. So if I say something about Man City, I can say about Man City, great football team, great football club, full of great personalities. Don't like the way that they've operated. Don't like the Middle Eastern money, but the way it's being utilised to weaponise certain scenarios. And then people will forget all the good stuff and only remember the bad thing. And I hate that sort of single-minded simplicity of thinking.
Yeah,
but no, I don't give a shit what people think. Do you?
No.
I don't.
My kids worry for me. My wife worries for me. I've been in football for 55 years in one guise or another, from starting as an apprentice at Spurs. And it's just part of the deal. You're going to get stick. I know that I polarise people, but I can live with that. It doesn't cause me any sleepless nights. I open my mouth and say anything about Man United, and it's because I played for Liverpool and managed Liverpool. So it's just, and then of course, do you do social media?
Not particularly.
I do. I've got an Instagram to help promote the charity I'm involved with. But I mean, that is a dangerous. If you are not
feeble-minded.
If you're not of a certain disposition, I think social media can be a place where I'm going to say it, for a weaker-minded person, can destroy you.
Yeah, but I mean, I've never understood the mentality. I don't get it, of the idea that a bunch of strangers that don't know you, that have no value in your life, telling you that they don't like you, can somehow affect your mental. Get your mental. Yeah, so do I. Get your mental, especially from Michelle. Yeah, it can affect your mental resilience. Talking about mental resilience, one of the major components or one of the major protagonists or perpetuators of mental resilience was Alex Ferguson and his tenure at Man United. I mean, I only met him a couple of times. And he drank all my scotch in my boardroom, which I didn't appreciate.
That's because you had red wine in there, obviously.
No, No, you wouldn't have been invited into the boardroom. What? And the first time I ever met you was in the Blackburn boardroom, actually. First game, Palace.
Your manager had a white suit on.
Probably. He was like the man from Del Monte, wasn't he? Yeah.
Good lad. What was his name?
Alan Smith.
Alan.
Yeah,
Alan.
he was what he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not a good man in my view, by my experiences of him. But I just remember the first time that you and I met, and you said to me, "Welcome to the madhouse." That was your opening gambit.
And was I wrong?
No, because I remember saying, if it's a madhouse, I'll fit straight in and I'll be all right here. But Ferguson, what were your... Do you hold him in the greatest of reverence?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Well, I played with great managers. You know, Bob Paisley was a great manager. Joe Fagan was a great manager. I didn't play under Shankly, but Shankly went to a club that wasn't doing well and built it up. For Joe and for Bob, they took over a successful football club. Fergie went to Man United at a time when they were good, but they weren't winning leagues. They weren't winning the big trophies.
Yeah, so they were winning FA Cup. Ron Atkinson was a manager.
Yeah, he had to go, and it wasn't a case of taking over and adding to it. It was a case of taking over and getting rid of people that he thought weren't going on a journey with him. People who, I mean, Man United had, when I played, had fabulous players, but they could certainly get up for the big games playing against us. I never played an easy game. When we were the dominant team, I never played an easy game against Man United. But then they'd let themselves down against the lesser, so they didn't have that focus that we had. And Fergie came in and got rid of those types, got changed there was a drinking culture at every football club. But I think at Man United, because of the way Manchester is and how you're revered if you're a Man United player and living in Manchester, I think some of the players found that difficult to deal with. But they always had a great group of players, but couldn't achieve what they should have done. And then Fergie came in, so he built one team and then he built another team. So I think there's an argument for Fergie being the greatest Premier League manager as we sit here today and talk about Premier League managers.
That's going to be difficult to run in perpetuity with what Guardiola's doing now, isn't it?
Yeah, but Guardiola took over. You know, Mancini won a league.
Yeah.
Pellegrini won a league.
This is dominance now, isn't it? This is total dominance.
Yeah.
You've now done a treble. There's a distinct possibility. I wouldn't put it beyond the wit of man that they could do it again. Difficult. Of course, it's difficult to the first one. But
it's a different job description.
But you've also got the added pressures of United. You know, when Ferguson takes over in '86, they've been in a period for...
I won the league for 25 years
68 or 67, whenever it was. You know, it must be 67 because it went after 26 years in '93, didn't they? So since 1967. You know, and they've had a group of good players coming in and out of that football club. But in '86, when he comes in from Aberdeen, he's got a completely different Man United on his hands, hasn't he? But
it took him 5 years to get
Bill
it
Nicholson
going.
was Scottish, wasn't he?
No.
Was he not? I thought Bill Nick was
Bill
Scottish.
was from Scarborough, I think I'm
was he?
correct.
Okay, that kind of negates my argument. So I was going to say, what is it with Scottish managers like Bill Shankly and Alex Ferguson that create something in a football club? I was going to say Bill Nick as well at Tottenham, but it wasn't. So that's the end of that conversation.
So when going back in the history of football, Scottish players and Scottish managers were deemed to be the best. They came to England to teach the English, funnily enough. And I don't know. I think you're talking.
Where'd you get that from?
I think if you look into the history of football, Scottish players were deemed to be the talented ones. Maybe.
Such as whom?
Don't ask me. I'm not that old.
Well, you just said it, so you've got to be able to substantiate it.
I think I'm correct in saying this. If you look back in the history of the British game, Scottish players came down here to play because they were deemed to be in front of, say, the English players.
Right. So that's a myth perpetuation in Scotland, is it?
It's one I'll talk about every day of the week.
Right.
Have a look and you may learn something. But anyway, you're talking about Fergie and Jock Stein. You know, he was Fergie's mentor. Jock was the governor. And interesting, I went out for lunch several times with a great Scottish journalist, award-winning journalist. Come on.
Hugh
McIlvanney. And I said to him...
Brilliant journalist, by the way.
Well, they say he's
great boxing writer
the best,
well.
yeah. And he narrated some great stuff as well with that Ayrshire accent. I mean, just the best.
Irascible though, wasn't he?
But anyway, at this luncheon I said to him, okay, you've got Bob Paisley, Bill Shankly, Don Revie, Jock Stein, Matt Busby and Fergie all sitting around a table. Who's the dominant voice?
Jock Stein.
and he said Jockstein. So he had obviously relationships with all of them. He said Jockstein would have been the dominant voice. He's the one who would have listened to.
What do you think Ferguson would do with this current Man United malaise? You and I talk about it. We think there's a cultural problem at United. We think players like Martial are signposting the way for things not to be done. We're not picking players out just to weaponise that and victimise them, but we are using it as a part of an argument about how this culture at Man United developed. What do you think Ferguson would be doing now?
Well, he'd start by emptying them. Now, he would be the first one, Fergie, and he repeated it just recently at Bobby Charlton's funeral. Who was a top guy, by the way. Ask me about him.
That's not how it works.
He had 5 years. I think it was 5 years before he really got it going.
4. They won the FA Cup in 19.
And he only got that. No, but in terms of really getting the thing going, he wouldn't have got that if it hadn't been for Bobby Charlton. Because similarly, Bobby Charlton supported him through those difficult years. I can remember the banners in the Stretford end, Fergie, time's up, or along those lines. So he had that man who was putting fires out from in the boardroom, and it kept him in place. And did they reap the benefits? Like, I played under Fergie.
What, for Scotland?
For Scotland.
Yeah.
And, he was the exact same as Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan, Roy Moran, simple, keep it straight. Would come down on the players if he felt they were shortchanging in any shape or form. And I was only ever dropped once in my life. And it was the very last game it could happen to me in. It was the Euro Cup in '86 in Mexico. I'd got a bug. I'd lost a lot of weight. We played West Germany, then we had played, Denmark, then West Germany. The third, we needed to beat Uruguay. And he left me out for that game. I can remember coming to my room in a hotel in Mexico, and I'd lost maybe a stone in weight, and I just wasn't on it. And he came in, and I agreed with him. I said, "You're doing the right thing."
That was good of him.
And he was really, really, but I knew I wasn't right. And subsequently, he said, he'd written and he said, it was a mistake leaving me out because playing against the South Americans, and it was like, you're surprised he said that?
No, I think, is that your version of it? Or did he actually say that?
I think if you get a book, he references that.
Okay.
But he was saying they were, South American style, cynical, and I was an experienced pro at the time, and he played Paul McStay instead of me. But I ended up feeling sorry for him when he came. He's got this aggressive persona, and I actually felt that must have been difficult for him. But I wasn't happy to be left out, but I fully understood why he had left me out.
Would you have liked to play for him domestically?
Oh yeah, I would have responded to his management.
Yeah.
Because, and I know the world changes. We're not just talking about football.
Talking about society and life.
And society's changed dramatically. Tough love. I responded to tough love. I had that from Jack Charlton. I had that when I went to Liverpool. My first game at Liverpool. I'm a record transfer fee between two English clubs. My first game is West Brom away from home. I'm in the dressing room at 2:45, and I said to Joe Fagan, who was the nicest, softly spoken, mild manner, but did have his moments if he kicked off. I said, "Joe, can I have a word with you?" He said, "Yes, son, what is it?" I said, "Well, look, I've been here a week and no one said anything to me. How does he want me to play?" His response in a booming voice, so everyone in the dressing room could hear, was, "F off. We've spent all this money on you and you're asking me to play football.
Yourself, yeah.
And you're asking me to play football," and walked away. That, in the modern dressing room, they'd be straight off to HR. "I can't play today. I need to have a lie down."
Because you're a bit like me, but I think you're even more vociferous about the over mystification of football now, and the terminology is being bandied around.
Simon's so correct. So correct. There's no mystery to it. The good habits that we're doing, that the top players were doing 50, 60s, 100 years ago, are the same good habits that people are doing now. I played in a team that dominated. The only thing they told us? Match them for effort. Match them for effort. That team's down near the bottom, you're near the top. If you don't match them for effort, they will beat you. So when you look at Man City in the last few years, it's easy to focus on the wonderful passing, intricate movements. It's wonderful to look at, the power and the pace of Haaland, the clever passing of De Bruyne. It's lovely, that's what you focus on, but you're missing it. They're working harder, or as hard as anyone they're playing against. And at the weekend against Spurs did that to them. Spurs outran them. They were more aggressive in their closing down. They put the really hard yards in from the first minute the last minutes, which was very impressive. I felt City just didn't have that intensity that they've had over the years on Saturday. But that do not write City out.
No, I'm not saying that. Do you think Spurs? I mean, do you understand the terminology Spursy? Do you relate to it?
I don't relate to it. I understand it. I don't relate to it.
No, but I don't say relate to it in terms of it's something you embrace.
It's not something I recognise.
Do you relate to understanding what the terminology means?
It's something I would have personally hated if anyone...
Yeah, but do you know what it means? When people say...
Yeah.
Flaky,
they can be rolled over.
A bit lightweight, yeah.
They can be rolled over.
Do you think this...
Easy to play against.
Do you think this version of Spurs... I mean, I think...
Not what we've seen this year, Simon.
Yeah, I think Postecoglou is fortunate, though, because I think you had to have all the dark of Conte to give him the light, and he can be balls out in this respect, because whatever Conte, the way that Spurs have been playing for the last couple of years, the fact that he's prepared to play it completely different gives him headroom anyway, doesn't it?
See, I got stick for it when, it's not the West. I was on telly and we're talking about West Ham. Someone said, what's the West Ham way? I said, what is the West Ham way? Because in my lifetime in football, West Ham, they were easy to play against. They tried to play the game right, pass. But the West Ham way wasn't winning trophies. It's like Spurs supporters say, we'll have to play the Spurs way. Well, there's only one way to play winning football.
By winning?
Yeah, by really aggressive, and having a manager or a staff that are constantly on your case without going over and falling out with you. That you got to match them today. You've got to match. They're driving you on. Another story to emphasise that point. At Liverpool, my 7 years there, we won the league 5 times. Pre-season training after we'd won the league. Following, season, 3 months later. A week at home, 10 days at home, then we'd go off and tournament somewhere. Towards that week or 10 days at home training, 2 sessions a day. At the end of one of the second sessions, we're in the dressing room, sitting there. You've got, you're tired. You've had a couple of hard days. On top of it, another couple of hard days, and then you're sitting there. You're feeling good. You've had a shower, a bit of banter in the dressing room. Ronnie Moran would walk into the dressing room with a cardboard box that someone had delivered something to the stadium, and he'd throw it onto the table. And he said, "If you played enough games and you think you deserve one, there's a medal in there for you," and walk out. There was no great presentation. Yeah. There you are. And he'd go disappear for 5 seconds. Then he'd come back in. And he just probably said, and he wouldn't come into the dressing, he just probably said, "And by the way, we get F all this year for what's in that effing box," and walk away. So before we've kicked a ball, he's put a marker down, we're on it as from now.
But there's something said for that, isn't there?
It was just the best environment to work in.
Right, that's it for episode 1 of Simon and Souness. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing. Don't forget to leave the questions in the comment section below. And we'll see you next time out.